Joker, you proved me wrong. And that is the subject and the topic of today's Brandon's World. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, from all ages, we have reached the NBA offseason. It is June 13th, 2023. This is Brandon's World on this Tuesday. You can follow me on Twitter at BrandonLewis_7. You can follow the show at Real_B1. We're, of course, available on all audio and video podcasting platforms. And as I said to open about 30 seconds ago, Nikola Jokic, the Joker, Jokic proved me wrong. Going into this postseason, I listed my top 9 NBA players, or I should say top 10, and I had Nikola Jokic at number 9. Now, a lot of people had him at top 5, some people had him at top 3, some people already had Nikola Jokic as the best player in the world. For me, I needed to see it. It was hard for me to, 2 months ago, put Jokic over Giannis Antetokounmpo, who had already won a championship, over Joel Embiid, who I had been saying for the last couple of years was a better player than Nikola Jokic, over a LeBron James at this point in his career, over a Steph Curry at this point, over a Kevin Durant, over a LD Kawhi Leonard, at some points even over a Donovan Mitchell or a John Morant, who I thought were ready to take their teams into superstardom this postseason. Yet Nikola Jokic defied the odds. He took down Kevin Durant. He took down LeBron James. He took down the Miami Heat. They were one of the deepest teams we thought going into the NBA Finals with all their undrafted players. And there were times that even in the Western Conference Finals, when I came out here on this podcast and said that Jamal Murray sometimes looks like he's the best player on the Denver Nuggets. But Nikola Jokic was undisputably, without a doubt, the best player in the series, in the NBA Finals, and that's not taking anything away from Jamal Murray, who, of course, was the first player ever to record 10 assists in his first 4 NBA Finals games. Jamal Murray was great in the series outside of Game 2. Denver was resilient. And the thing that we all kind of thought as NBA fans / media analyses going into these finals was, again, Gabe Vincent, Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin, Max Strus, Kyle Lowry, Kevin Love. These role players for Miami was a lot deeper than Denver. And yet here came Christian Brown. Here came Bruce Brown. Here came KCP. Here came Jeff Green. And even without Michael Porter producing almost next to nothing in the series, you got Alfred Aaron Gordon as well. And with Jokic and Jamal Murray doing their thing, Denver ultimately dominated this series after Game 2. And the fascinating thing about this series to me was Denver did it mostly with their defense. The final score last night was 94-89. Miami 3 or 4 games out of the 5 games in the series. It was the third quarter, and they only had 60 points in NBA basketball in 2023, which is unacceptable. And those guys who, again, you're undrafted, your Gabe Vincents, your Caleb Martins, your Duncan Robinsons, your Max Struses, yeah, they played okay. Some of them did decently in Game 5 last night. But for the most part in the series, again, outside of Game 2, they disappeared. And what did we say about Miami pretty much after the Milwaukee series? I don't really know anybody outside the Knicks fans that thought the Knicks were going to beat the Heat. The Knicks were a flawed team that got by the Cleveland Cavaliers because the Cavaliers are a flawed offensive team and they need a new head coach. As I've detailed, I'm from Cleveland and talk about the Cavs all the time. When I used to be at Believe One Media in the All Things Cleveland Cavaliers podcast, me and my co-host Joey Snyder at the time talked about it all the time. The Cavs were a flawed number 4 seed. After Miami shockingly got by the Bucks, I thought they would beat the Knicks, and then I thought they'd run into a brick wall in Boston because with Milwaukee being eliminated, it felt like even with their new head coach Joe Mazzulla, this was the year for Boston to get back to the finals, maybe win it this year. Now that they didn't have to go for Golden State, they would have to go for the Lakers or the Nuggets. And again, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, in the moment, in the game, even though they came back down 3-0, choked in game 7, and Miami got to the finals and they were feeling the momentum, and it just felt like you could not count out Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. But as I was saying, ever since really game 2 of the Boston series, Jimmy Butler turned back into Jimmy Butler. I thought Jimmy Butler was very passive in this series. There were many times that even if you did not get the call against you, go up against Nikola Jokic, try to create contact, try to draw a foul instead of passing it back out for a wild shot. I mean, even last night, the last shot of the season, that 3 by Jimmy Butler, he rushed it, that turnaround 3. You could have got right to the basket and gotten free throws, yet instead, Jimmy Butler turns away and does a fadeaway, 35-foot jumper that is nowhere close to even going in the basket. And last night in game 5, Jimmy Butler really struggled. I think he was 2 for 14 at one point in the game. So I don't know if he was tired, and I'm not going to make an excuse for him because the best players in the world, just overcome things. Everybody's tired at this point in the NBA season. But after, again, I was such a hater of Nikola Jokic, and you can call me a hater all you want. It is undisputable. I have been wrong. I said, if Jokic wins this championship this year, I will come on here the next day and say I was wrong about Nikola Jokic. And I am a man of my word. It's what I've always been. Denver dominated the finals. Nikola Jokic dominated the series. I thought Bam Adebayo played him okay the first 2 games. I thought the last 3 games, Miami's defense was terrible. I hated the switching of Jokic and Lowry. Just did not understand that at all. You're putting your smallest player on Jokic and letting Jokic eat. I thought it was terrible strategy. I thought the whole series, just in retrospect, even though, again, Denver mostly dominated the series, I thought early on in games, Miami had a chance, to pull away. Then they didn't. Then Denver would come back. And it just felt like, even in game 5, it's a game of runs, right? Miami gets the lead early. They're up by 9-10 points at halftime. Then they just go on these weird old spells and allow Denver to get back in the ball game, and Miami could never recover. I also thought, and we didn't know how good of a coach Mike Malone was before these playoffs, and he's obviously elevated himself into that coaching stratosphere now with this finals victory. I thought Eric Spoelstra going in did a magnificent coaching job the first 3 rounds of the playoffs. Once he got to the finals, not like Kevin Love, when their offense was clearly better with number 42 on the court, did not understand that. He would start the game and then disappear and almost never come back into the game, which again, I think helped Miami get off to that earlier start. Just did not understand some of the coaching decisions and just letting Aaron Gordon and Jokic and those guys on the glass. Game 3, I think Miami got out rebounded by 30 rebounds or something like that. And I thought Miami would come out. I liked their energy every time they came out on the court in the first quarter. After that initial first 6 minutes, after the first TV timeout, Miami's offense and defense would just never recover. And I really think that Miami had a ceiling. The interesting thing is, and I said this when I was last with you on Thursday, is if Giannis Antetokounmpo did not get hurt early on and did not miss that game 2 in that Milwaukee series, and I believe he missed game 3 as well, and obviously Miami rolled in game 3 and took advantage. And as we talked about, nowadays in the NBA playoffs, we have teams that maybe aren't the best team that win the championship just because of injury, because there are so many injuries in the postseason. If Milwaukee gets by Miami, is it Milwaukee against Denver in the finals? I think it certainly is. And then we get the battle of Giannis and Jokic. And are we seeing Jokic in a different light? It's very interesting. The NBA changes year to year, as we know. There's a lot of people that think Denver could be a dynasty because of how young they are and because they have almost everybody locked into contract. The interesting thing that I'm going to see is obviously what do the Lakers do? We talked about the rumors surrounding Chris Paul. Do not think that's going to happen. Phoenix with new head coach Frank Vogel. Do they bring Chris Paul back, which I think they should, and build around Durant, Paul, Booker? Maybe you trade Aiden and get a center that can actually body against Jokic, that has the ability and want to play against Jokic, because Aiden did not want to mess around with Jokic in that series. You still got Golden State, who, listen, they were a 6 seed. They were beat up all year. They were not the same team. They're getting older. But what do they do to try to make one last run? And then, of course, out east, you have Milwaukee, who I don't think is going away. You got Philly and you got Boston, obviously. We'll see if there's any moves the Cavs make. So I think that the NBA right now is more balanced than it's ever been. Obviously, we had a 1 versus an 8 in the finals, which was unbelievable. And again, it just shows that I think the NBA is going to slowly turn into what college basketball is, what March Madness is. It's why we love March Madness. It's the parity. And again, a lot of times I don't root for the underdog. A lot of times I root for the favorite. And the reason why I root for the favorite is because I like watching smarts. I like watching greatness. I like watching the best players. I like watching teams dominate and go on these runs like New England did of 20 years, like the Spurs did, like the Lakers did, like the Astros are doing right now in baseball, outside of the cheating, obviously. Which I can't stand, but I do really like watching smart people work in sports, because sports is a game. I've always said this: sports is a game. Sports is not that hard. The smart adapt, the smart survive, the not smart, go away. But I think the NBA now, with so much talent out there, and on Thursday's podcast, these are going to be a little bit shorter podcasts as we get for the draft now, as we go for the summer. I got a lot of games planned out for NBA free agency. Me and my buddy Jalen Sandvik, who was on the podcast over the right after the Super Bowl, we're gonna play some games. We did fair or foul last time. We're gonna be doing buy, sell, or hold again. We have a deal or no deal on tap with NBA free agency, with guys like Chris Paul and Jaylen Brown and maybe some others that could be on the move. So it's hopefully going to be a fun summer. Some of these podcasts like today are going to be a little bit shorter, where again, we're only going to break down the finals, 10, 15-minute podcast. Some of the games may be a 30, 35-minute, 40-minute podcast. But for right now, we are pretty much on cruise control until the NFL season. But I can't wait. I think it's going to be a ton of fun. Again, congratulations to the Denver Nuggets. You guys know what I said. I thought the Miami Heat underdog story was one of the most fascinating stories I've witnessed in my near 25-year lifespan on Earth. Being the 8 seed and being a team with little to no talent, the 7 undrafted players outside of Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo to go to the finals and potentially win it was something I really wanted to see. But I've said, no matter if the Broncos have won an NFL championship, I believe every city and every town with a sports team deserves to at least have one championship from every team in that city. So Denver finally witnessed their NBA championship. They know what it feels like. Hopefully one day, obviously, the Rockies will win the championship. I'm still waiting, obviously, for my Cleveland Guardians to win a championship. But nonetheless, winning that NBA championship and watching a team, every time they celebrate winning a championship, it takes me back to Super Bowl 52 with my Philadelphia Eagles and my 2016 NBA champion Cleveland Cavaliers. Really fun to see. Denver was the best team in the NBA from December on. They deserve it. Nikola Jokic is the best player in the world. Now the question is going to be, who is players 2 through 10? And I will answer that on Thursday. Again, thank you guys so much for listening today to the Brandon's World podcast. Once again, we are in collaboration with the one and only Voltage Live. I have a lot of projects in the works. We have a project starting up this fall in collaboration with the Brand's World 5-year anniversary that I'm really excited that we're going to be announcing here in the next month over the summer. You can check me out on Twitter at BrandonLewis_7. You can follow the show at real_people. We are available on all audio and podcasting platforms every Tuesday and Thursday, breaking down the biggest stories in all of sports and having some fun. Again, this is Brandon Lewis on the Brand's World Podcast signing off. Congratulations to the Denver Nuggets, and I will be back on Thursday where I break down my top 10 current NBA players after witnessing the postseason. You like that clip from the Brand's World Podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brand's World Podcast right here on YouTube.